Some people criticise the Game Awards for not having enough community input, but I think the recent Australian Game Awards highlights why a community-based award show is just a bad idea. The Australian Game Awards happened recently, and before it even started, we were in controversy territory. The big Game Awards, the big show that we all know as the Game Awards, that is 10% community vote and then 90% judges. And judges come from publications, you know, like IGN and Kotaku and whoever else happens to be on the panels. And this does get criticized for not having enough of community input, like maybe it can be more than 10%, whatever else. But the Australian Game Awards, the inaugural Australian Game Awards, was 100% community based. So community votes gave you the nominees, and community votes gave you the finalists, and community votes gave you the winners. And as I said before it even started, there was controversy because what does the community do? Well, they nominate an alleged plagiarist to Journalist of the Year. And not only did they nominate an alleged plagiarist to Journalist of the Year, he made it as a finalist. And after some uproar, this person did actually stand down themselves without the Australian Game Awards taking action, but they left it right down to the wire. It was 2 days before the Australian Game Awards was going to happen. But what really blew my mind about the Australian Game Awards was the winner of RPG of the Year. RPG of the Year, like at the big Game Awards, that went to Monster Hunter World, which a lot of people wouldn't consider an RPG, but you know, I could make an argument that it is an RPG, I could make an argument that it isn't an RPG. I generally like to be inclusive. I'm okay, I guess, with Monster Hunter World winning RPG of the Year. But what won it at the Australian Game Awards? Like Dragon Quest XI or Octopath Traveler? No. Detroit Become Human. What? Detroit Become Human, an RPG? Not even Quantic Dream would call this game an RPG. It has pretty much none of the mechanics or anything even remotely associated with traditional role-playing games. Why would it even be included? Why was it included? Because the community doesn't know what the fuck is going on. And that is the problem with a community-based award system, because it just turns into a massive shit show. Now, as I sort of alluded to with the Monster Hunter World thing, I like to be inclusive with the term RPG and JRPG. You know, I find the arguments that people have about what is and isn't an RPG just pointless. I would rather sort of err on the side of, yeah, well, maybe it's an RPG, you know, let's just bring it in. Let's all be one big happy family. You know, a lot of people wouldn't consider Zelda Breath of the Wild an RPG, but how much different is Breath of the Wild than, say, Skyrim, which most people would call an RPG? Is it that far off? How many RPG elements does a game have to be called an RPG? And I guess, you know, that's a crazy long argument and analysis that you could go into by yourself, but as I say, I generally try to keep out of those, and I would rather just be a little bit more inclusive. But Detroit Become Human is like way out there. It's not like a fringe case like a Monster Hunter World. It is like, that is alternate dimension kind of stuff to consider that an RPG. You know, I mean, it's barely a game. It's almost a movie. It's barely a game, let alone role-playing game, and let alone role-playing game of the year. Now, why would the community vote Detroit Become Human RPG of the Year? Why? It's pretty simple, because out of all the nominees on the list, Detroit Become Human was the most mainstream game, and the community at large is mainstream. This problem isn't alleviated by the Game Awards system where, you know, it's 90% judges and 10% community, because the judges are all from game publications, and what do game publications cover predominantly? The mainstream. That's kind of the problem, and I don't think that there's ever going to be a system that's going to be perfect. There's never going to be a Game Awards show or event that every single award that's given is met with universal praise. Like, yes, that is definitely what should have won that award. I think there's always going to be a little bit of like, wait, why did Red Dead Redemption win like 3 awards when, you know, the score wasn't even that good.
Shots fired.
I mean, I'm still scratching my head at Detroit Become Human, but what do you think would have won RPG of the Year if you excluded things like Monster Hunter World and Detroit Become Human? So, you know, if it was like Dragon Quest XI, Octopath Traveler, and some of the other actual RPGs that come out this year, what do you think would have won RPG of the Year? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and I'll see you all soon.